Oh, hi.
Hi, Sylvia.
I was just concerned. I have sort of like a double whammy. I was diagnosed with primary unknown, and then later on I had 6 months of chemo, and then I had surgery, and they discovered it was ovarian, and then I had some radiation. I've been on Prozac before my diagnosis, obviously, and right through. Now, actually, when I say a double whammy, I think the Prozac was very, very helpful in getting me through this, because my initial diagnosis was I had 6 months to live.
Oh.
And now I find that not only is the ovarian cancer affecting my sexuality, but also the Prozac even, I think, as much, if not more so.
Yeah.
And so I'm sort of caught in the middle of this, and I felt that I had great libido before, and now I have none.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I mean there are some things that stem from the cancer aspect, but also from the Prozac. So
yeah. Also, Prozac. First, I mean, as I've talked about, the cancer itself can impact libido. The treatment impacts libido. The Prozac may be impacting your libido too. With Prozac, we actually tend to see more problems with women achieving orgasm. That it's just extraordinarily difficult, and for women who were previously orgasmic, now it's just an absolute impossibility, or it takes forever and a day, and everyone gets bored, tired, in the process. So that with Prozac tends to be more of an issue. It's an issue for men as well, in terms of delaying orgasm. In fact, Prozac is actually used now to treat men with premature ejaculation. So they don't stay on it long term. They actually just take it before sexual activity because it delays orgasm. So that's just sort of as an aside. Have you considered going off the Prozac to see what happens?
Well, we've had many a discussion on that with my husband as well as my doctor, and I guess there is... It's sort of been a miracle drug for me, because it's like one time when I felt so good, I decided to take it every other day instead of every day, and after about a week or two, I was advised that I should go back on it every day.
Okay, and you weren't feeling well?
I felt fine, but I felt fine before I took it, and I feel fine on it, but but it is like night and day for me.
Okay, but now you said you felt fine before going on it.
Well, obviously, I had some problems.
Okay.
And but I didn't feel that it was affecting me physically.
Right.
But it as I mentioned,
But mentally or emotionally, it really helps you.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think this is obviously a very difficult decision to make, because, being depressed is a horrible, horrible place to be. Mm-hmm. By the same token, you you have come through the other side. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't know, I'm just, throwing some stuff out here that you've probably thought about. I mean, potentially, the same issues do not prevail in your life to the same extent.
Right.
So it might be okay to cut back or go off this and just kind of see where you're at.
Well, my problem is apparently I have a chemical imbalance. I don't produce enough serotonin.
Oh, okay.
And so this is also one of the biggest reasons. And they tried me on a couple of drugs, and they just were absolutely no good whatsoever. And we happened to just come across Prozac, and it's just been a godsend.
Yeah. So is your issue predominantly lack of libido or lack of desire?
Yes.
Yeah. It's really difficult. I think that, there is that elemental aspect of desire, but desire is also part of our hearts and our minds. One of the things that I find women who are experiencing lack of desire find very helpful is a reframing of our understanding of of desire and the role it plays in the female sexual response cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Most of what we understand about, or think we understand about, the sexual response cycle is based on work done by Masters and Johnson in the 1960s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And their sexual, and I don't know if you remember this from perhaps your university education, they said that the sexual response cycle starts with essentially with arousal, engorgement of tissues, and goes on through orgasm and resolution. It was a very linear view.
Mm-hmm.
One of their students, Helen Singer Kaplan, reconceptualized this, and she brought the brain into it, and she said the first step is desire, right? You go to one sex, and then you have all this vasocongestion, and then you have orgasm, and it all goes away, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that way of thinking about the sexual response cycle has really stayed with us, that we assume that desire or interest has to come first. There is a physician at UBC, Rosemary Basson, who challenges that notion and has come up with an alternative way at looking at the female sexual response cycle. And she says, first of all, it's not linear. It doesn't start here and end there. It's a circle. She says that if you are in a relationship, which it sounds to me that you are in, where there is mutual respect, love, and you are willing to be sexual with your partner, she says that desire is not the first step in the process. If you are willing to be sexual and a sexual approach or sexual touching happens in an appropriate manner, i.e., for me, being sexually approached at 11 o'clock on a Thursday night when I'm exhausted is a no-no, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Sunday morning, however, might be a different thing. So if sexual approach or sexual touch happens in an appropriate context, it is often then when sexual desire kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is if you wait for your innate desire to kick in,
mm-hmm.
you're going to be waiting for a whole hell of a long time.
Right, right.
Obviously, there has to be trust and confidence and communication in the relationship, because if your partner comes to you and, I don't know, kisses you on the cheek, touches you behind your ear, whatever it is,
mm-hmm.
if you're not in the mood and you say no, you don't want this person's heart to be broken. You don't want them to lose hope and stop trying, right?
Right.
So the sort of basic precepts in this idea is that desire often will kick in at different times. It might only kick in when you become aroused. So despite your best instinct that you're not in the mood, you start fooling around and suddenly you're in the mood.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
And Basson acknowledges that there are reasons other than sexual satisfaction that we as women are sexual, because there are material and non-material rewards. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's because our partner has been vibrating because they've done without for so long, right?
Right.
And even though we may not have an earth-shattering orgasm, we still derive pleasure from seeing our partner experience pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And those rewards feed into motivation for the next time,
Right.
so that our willingness to be sexual continues.
Mm-hmm.
So, I hope that perhaps triggers, some thinking for you, that you don't have to be necessarily, and by this I don't mean that you got to do stuff when you don't want to do stuff. That's not my intent at all.
Right.
Okay? You need to be free within your relationship to say, no, this is not a good time, and know that you will not be punished or,
mm-hmm.
in any way. But, just think about, what happens if you do start kissing and canoodling,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Very often it leads to something else. If someone had suggested to you, let's fool around, it might be the last thing on your mind.
Right.
So
It normally is.
right. but sometimes if you kind of start fooling around,
Yeah.
you may find yourself having a good time.
Right. Right. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great.